Soy muy, muy andromeda, disboi disi e muy argentaskias. Dito soy muy, muy andromeda, me pere dios tu mergideseus.
Hello guys, welcome back again. I'm going to be talking today about the late age nation of Arcoscephale. Now, if you've played Arcoscephale in any of the other ages, this age is not too different. It's fairly similar to the Middle Age version and quite a bit different from the Early Age, but Early Age Arcoscephale is really unique. I did make a video about Early Age Arcoscephale, but specifically about their philosopher unit. I didn't really cover too much else about the nation. But we're going to be talking about the late age, because to be honest, in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting versions of Arcoscephale. I guess early and late age are both pretty interesting, and they're interesting for different reasons. Now, in the late age, Arcoscephale is a little bit weaker than it used to be. For some reason, you have these kind of Bronze Age pikemen hoplite units going toe-to-toe against like crossbows and kind of Renaissance era units in some other nations. So though it's kind of wonky, but that just goes to show how strange Dominion's timelines are. You have like I said, you have like Bronze Age, early late Iron Age units against kind of pre-modern units, like pre-gunpowder Renaissance era units, which is very, very strange. But whatever, Arcoscephale still is pretty good. Its mage core is really, really good. And its units are decent. Like, they take buffs really well. Especially their cavalry is really nice. So let's get into this. First of all, I'm just going to talk about the generic units. And we'll go through the mages. Then I'll go in more detail about some strategies and how you can actually use these mages effectively. But let's just do a very quick overview of the units. So first of all, you have the Slinger and Peltast. I'm not really going to talk too much about these guys. Slingers are really, really cheap. And by the late age, I would say they're pretty useless, to be honest. You can give them flaming arrows, but really, to be honest, by now, it's not going to do very much. The Peltast is a little bit better. He's like a indie militia with the Javelin. Javelins are not as good as they used to be. In early age, Javelins are great. By late age, they're kind of pretty rough. And this leather gear, this gets torn apart really quickly. Like, I was playing a test game just now and trying to mass Peltast to see how it would go, and it was not good. I think it's a waste of time to do that, so I would not bother trying to mass Peltast or anything. They just die and force your army to rout, so I think these guys are not that great. They're good in that they can just die, like they can absorb some hits and stuff, and they're cheap, so that's really the big use for them. The main ones you really want to focus on are your spearman units. You have 4 different spearman units, 3 generic ones, and 1 of your sacred is a spearman as well. So the 2 kind of long spearmen, the hoplite and the phalangite, they're both very, very similar. The hoplite has a little bit better stats in general, mostly the same stats. Mainly he has a little bit better armor. That's the main thing about him. The phalangite has almost the same stats. He's a little bit faster because he's got lighter armor, so a little bit less protection. Not much else about that. The last one is the Hypaspis. I hope I'm saying that right. He has a slightly shorter spear, but slightly better stats all around. A little bit better defense, a little bit better morale. And generally, he's like kind of your elite generic unit, and he's also the fastest footman you have. So this could be useful for different things as well. You could consider using him versus the longer spears. Still a 3 spear is pretty good, and he's still a formation fighter, so, he's pretty nice. Last, you have your Sacred Spearman, the Heart Companion. This guy has Formation Fighter 5, so they can fit 5 of these guys in a square. That's a lot of power if you're really going to stack up some Bless. These guys can take a Bless pretty well as far as humans go. Human units tend to die pretty quickly, and these guys, even though their protection is pretty good, they have 18 protection, which is not bad. They're still humans, so they're going to die, and, crossbows are still going to tear them up. They do have a shield, which will help with that a little bit. And the spear, the length 4 spear is pretty nice. But, again, they're sacred, so they take blesses pretty well. I like weapon blesses on this guy. Even a cheap weapon bless, like Withering Weapons, is pretty nice, because these guys can make a nice little tech unit. You can have a formation of these guys push in and really counter some bigger enemy units and take them down, which could be pretty nice. Moving on from those, we have the Egma Companion. This is probably one of my favorite units in late age Arcoscephale. This is your kind of heavy horseman with a lance. You have a lance charge, of course, and the broadsword. Pretty good armor, and these guys take a these guys take a buff really well. A couple of these guys with a priest leading them, or sorry, not a priest, but like a mage, maybe one of your mystics leading them, can do a lot of damage. You also have the Cerulean Warrior. This guy's, I tend not to use this guy too much, but I don't think he's bad. I mean, I think he's actually pretty good. He's very strong. He's got double the hit points of your human units. He's bigger than the human units, so you won't fit as many of them in a square, but his strength and his attack skill are pretty good. And he's about as fast as your other footmen, so he can keep up with them. And having a couple of these guys as like a really buff unit to come and like smack maybe some like thugs or some like other big units and stuff, somewhere wherever you need a lot of power, a lot of strength. These guys will be pretty good. And again, since they have pretty high HP, they can take a buff pretty well to give them a little bit more staying power. And since they're animals, they will benefit from some spells like, like Rage of the Cornered Rat or other spells that focus on animals specifically. So if you want to do things like that, and I do recommend you get into that as well, because it also benefits your elephants. These guys could have a role. I have not used them that much ever myself, but I think they could be pretty useful. So I wouldn't say these guys are not worth recruiting. I think these guys are much better than a lot of your lighter units. Last one is the elephant, and you have one of the best elephants out of all the elephant nations in the game, considering that you actually have armor for this elephant and a bunch of guys with spears on top who are going to stab everybody nearby. Now, elephants are always tricky because they trample, which is good, but they have pretty low morale, and they tend to rout and rush over your own lines and run over your own troops. So that can be a problem sometimes, but we'll talk about some ideas about how to use elephants in a little bit. Again, some spells that target animals can help this a lot, and they also help your Bandar guys too, so that could be a nice kind of combination with these guys. I think the Bandar and the elephants actually work pretty well as like a tag team, to be honest. Next, you have your commanders. You have all your generic commanders, just generic spearman commanders, generic riding commander. The Strategos is like your big army leader. He's old, which is not great, but for a commander, it doesn't matter. He's just big leadership. If you ever need big leadership, he's your guy. You have the Neokoros. This is your cheapest priest and cheapest mage. Pretty decent in terms of gold to research, to be honest. They don't have much in the way of paths, just a nature 1 is not that useful, nature 1 holy 1. They have a 20% random for death and nature, which is not bad, but I mean, these guys are cheap. Basically, these guys are really cheap research, and they're healer as well, so they'll be able to heal units. The main use for these guys, in my opinion, is healing feeble-minded if you're doing mind hunts with some of your astral mages. So this is the main reason I keep these, because they're quite cheap. You can pair them up and do mind hunting little groups, little assassination teams together. You have the Orphic Mystic, who has a pretty decent path spread. Death, nature, and glamour, plus a random for 50% for these generic elemental and also astral, as well as another 50% for these 3 same sorcery paths. So these are actually pretty good. They're spell singers, so they cast spells a little bit slower, but they can actually be more efficient with their spell casting. And these guys are pretty decent mages. I quite like these a lot. This is a big reason why I think late age Arcoscephale is a lot better than middle age. Compared to early age, I don't know, but I mean, compared to middle age, I think this is a lot better, specifically because you get this access to nature and death, and even some glamour now in Dominion 6, you get some glamour magic, so you can do a lot of things, and if these guys get an astral path, they can even join communions too, which is pretty nice. They have reincarnation too. I don't know if this really does much. I mean, it just means if they die, they will maybe reincarnate, they will come back as something. Yeah, the generic mystic, he returns from early age. This mystic's been here for every incarnation, and he's the backbone of your nation. However, now he's got competition from the Orphic Mystic. This guy and the Orphic Mystic, I think you have good reason to recruit both. This guy's a guaranteed astral mage, so he's always going to be your communion guy. And he has pretty good paths. He has a 100% chance for any of these paths, and several 50% randoms for another elemental path. So he can get a pretty wide spread. You should be recruiting a lot of these guys. I think in late age, I try to get a lot of mystics, as well as Orphic Mystics. Kind of a good mix of both, depending on what I want to do. Maybe a few more Orphic Mystics, but the Mystics tend to be more useful for communion. So it depends what you want to do. I think early game, the Orphic Mystics are better. They're a little bit better researchers, and their paths are a little bit more useful in the early to mid game. However, late game, once you want to get into bigger communions, Mystics are maybe a little bit better. You have the Panagius, who's pretty generic priest. 1 nature and 1 chance for either nature or death, so not that much in the way of paths. But she has something very unique, which is Carcass Collector, and I'll come back to talk about this a little bit later, because this mage alone can enable a lot of really cool strategies as Arcoscephale. Yeah, the Cerulean Commander, not much to say about him other than he has the Beastmaster, so he can actually be a good leader for your elephants, to give them a little bit more morale, as well as your Bandar too, so he actually has a pretty good use for being like an elephant leader, elephant raider. And last is the Sibyl. This is your kind of big capital-only mage. You can start recruiting these out of your capital. They're not, to be honest, I don't know if they're that much better than any of your other generic mages. All your mystics are actually pretty good as Arcoscephale. They have really random paths, but in general, they're pretty good, and you will get a lot of good mages most of the time. However, they do have a guaranteed Astral 2, and they have a chance for Astral 3, which is nice. I mean, if for Astral 3, they can start mine hunting. They have these other paths as well for water and the sorcery paths. If they get water, they can maybe commune themselves up to doing like foul vapors and things like that, especially if they get assisted by some other mages as well. Nature magic too, they can do a lot of like nature communion and stuff like that. Basically, this is your big communion mage if you want to do some bigger communions. They also are a fortune teller as well, so if you want to dip into misfortune, this could kind of enable that a little bit. That's enough of this. I'm not going to go in much more detail here. I'm actually going to move on. Alright, so let's talk a little bit more detail about the nation, specifically some strategies you can follow, some basic and more unique strategies to late age Arcoscephale, as well as how to use certain units. So first of all, my god concept. This is one god concept I came up with, specifically using a lot of death blesses. I took Withering Weapons, Stygian Flesh, and Low Light Vision. This is more to enable the Sacreds. Stygian Flesh gives them a little bit more staying power, Withering Weapons gives them kind of a tech usefulness, and Low Light Vision more to enable some darkness strategies. Since your Mystics could pretty easily cast things like Eclipse in Communion, that could enable some kind of funny strategies like pulling darkness on the battlefield. So this is kind of thinking about that. However, if you want to get into some other things, for example, Tartarians, which I'll talk about later, maybe you could drop one of these and take Mending Bones, because I'm pretty sure in Dominion 6, Mending Bones and a Shroud of the Battle Saint is the only way you can fix a Tartarian, like heal the Tartarians. A few other gods too that could be useful. The Lion, the Golden Lion is pretty good as an expander, as is the Black Bull. I think both these two could be good options for expansion. Since elephants are a little bit more expensive now in Dominion 6, you may need help with expansion. I know doing a test game, I did have a little bit of trouble with early expansion against independents. Like sometimes these independents are just like so huge, it's hard to deal with them with just your recruitables. Sometimes your recruitment is so low compared to what the independents can shell out. You also have the Titan of Spring and the Titan of the Crossroads. Both these could be good options as well. The Titan of Spring is an immortal unit, and the Titan of the Crossroads has some decent paths as well. Has very similar paths to the Mother of Monsters, Death and Nature, except she has Astral instead of Blood, if you want to go for an Astral Bless or something else like that. Titan of Spring is just Death and Nature, if you just want to focus on that only, and you don't really want to get into Blood. The reason I took Mother of Monsters, she's a good thug unit. I took Dormant with her because when she wakes up after about a year, I can use her to cast some useful spells for me, like some death or nature spells, even get into vampires later if I really want to. But I could also use her as a super combatant, give her some gear, and send her out to help me fight in some early wars. So this is why I like her. But these other ones could be good. Actually, I think the Titan of the Crossroads could also be good super combatant. Since they're a trinity, you'll get 3 of them, so that could be pretty useful as well. Basically, all of these are great options, but I'll talk about some maybe more ideas later. But I think this one on the left is a pretty good idea. Again, if you're interested in Tartarians, maybe swap out Stygian Flesh or Withering Weapons for Mending Bones or something like that. And you can play with the scales a little bit as well. Alright, so let's talk about some basic plans, basic game plans for Arcoscephale. One of the basic strategies of Arcoscephale, which you definitely will be doing, is just buffing your troops. You have decent troops, they're not bad, they have good protection, they're formation fighters so they can group up together, and just, buff them, give them some buffs. Your Mystics are great buffers. A couple of Mystics in a Communion can cast a lot of these big buffs. For example, Weapon of Sharpness to improve your weapons and improve the piercing damage. Strength of Giant Warriors to improve the strength and be able to take out some bigger units, especially some like giants or something like that. Army of lead, army of gold, army of bronze, all these like army of something, or even like marble warriors, which is a little bit lower level. All of these can really buff your troops. Army of lead, for example, gives you the magic resistance bonus if you're under threat from enemy mages. Army of gold, I think, gives you a fire resistance bonus, and also doesn't have the susceptibility to shock, so it takes away this this negative. And there's a bunch of other Army of spells that have different benefits and costs as well. I just gave Army of Lead as an example because it's pretty easy for you to cast. Legions of Steel is good too, just improves the prot on your armor. And there's many more other buffs, but just buffing your warriors is a pretty basic strategy. And again, here's the Mystic. Mystic, again, guaranteed Astral 1 with these paths, 100% Fire, Water, and Earth. And Astral, and then another 50% chances for another elemental path. So again, these are your big evocation casters. These are big like alteration or buffing mages, and also your go-to communion mages as well. Get a couple of these as communion, cast whatever you want. Next big strategy is, again with the Mystic, elementals. You know, these guys have all these elemental paths, fire, water, earth. You can really easily cast any of these elementals. Pretty often you'll be able to get up to like, you know, Earth 2 or Fire 2, just use like Phoenix Power, Earth Power without anything, and be able to cast elementals like easily without any communions or buffing or gems or anything like that. For water, you might need to form a communion, or you might need to take some extra gems with you, but you can still do it too. But the fire and earth could be pretty useful too. Earth against maybe some normal human units, they'll be able to crush them. They'll trample them. Fire against maybe some like undead or some units that don't have as much protection or otherwise susceptible to fire. And water against maybe some larger units like a super combatant, a thug, or some giants. They have a higher attack, and they'll be able to deal with that a little bit better. So again, mystics, maybe one or two mystics together casting elementals could be another strategy. You can even do big elemental swarms later in the game, like living water, living earth, living fire, and that could be another late game strategy for you. Another basic strategy that's pretty easy is Mind Hunt. The main kind of way you could do it is with the Sibyl. The Sibyl has these paths. She has 2 astral as well as 1 nature, and she has 100% chance of these 4. Water, astral, death, nature, and then a small 10% chance of these. So she could get like astral 3 pretty commonly, and you should be recruiting these guys from your capital pretty regularly after a while. With Starshine Skullcap, or even like a crystal coin, if you can make crystal coin, or sorry, not crystal coin, coin of meteoric iron, you can buff her up to astral 4 pretty easily, and she can mind hunt with a Neokoros to accompany her to heal her if she gets afflicted, as in she gets feeble-minded. When you use mind hunt, you have a chance to astral core detection, which means you will basically blow up your own mind instead, and that can increase based on the enemy mage's astral level. So if there are astral mages around, and there are a lot of astral mages in the late age, you may blow up your own mage's mind, but the Neokoros can heal that pretty easily. And the Panagias, the other healer you have, is an even better healer, but she's a little bit more expensive, so you know, it's whatever you want to do. But yeah, these two tag teaming together can basically take out anybody. Next one is communions. I mean, this is really obvious, but Arco is the communion nation, and a lot of your gameplay is going to be fiddling with communions. Mystics are your go-to communion mages. Orphic mystics can also be communions if they happen to roll astral, and Sibyls as well could be communion mages as well, since they are guaranteed astral. So all of these guys, here's some good examples of communion spells. Aside from just buffing your troops, you can also be more aggressive. These are more like attacking spells and aggressive spells like Maws of the Earth. This will cause a mass earth grip, which will hold enemy units there. This is a good way to deal with like cavalry or other units from rushing you. Foul Vapors is a good one. You can easily do Foul Vapors with Communion. This causes poison clouds, so maybe do some Gift of the Serpent or some other spell that gives poison resistance for your own troops, and then cast Foul Vapors in Communion to wipe out anybody who doesn't have poison resistance. You can even do a Foul Vapors trap, hide a few units in one province, and then when the army moves in, they cast Foul Vapors and wipe out tons of those troops, and then your own mages retreat. Some other ones are Creeping Doom, which is basically like Swarm, but on a massive level. It'll have tons and tons of random bugs and a little bit stronger than the normal Swarm bugs. This is pretty good against, it's a little bit weaker in Dominion 6 than it used to be, but it's still pretty good. I would still try to cast that. It's really easy for you to cast as well. Next one is Howl. This is summons many wolves, and this is a good way to keep HP on the field to stop yourself from routing, and also just to constantly harass the enemy. You have Gifts from Heaven, which is also easy for you to cast in Communion. This causes a bunch of meteors, and you can even have a bunch of Gifts from Heaven casters to really spam it and really wipe out a huge chunk of the enemy army. Soul Slay is also good. You can have a bunch of Soul Slay batteries, a couple Mystics together, casting Soul Slay, and that can take out a lot of commanders or any units. This is basically like a one-hit kill anyways. Now let's get into more advanced strategies. Now, I mentioned before that the Panagaeus is really special because of this Corpse Collector trait. And the reason I like this is because, well, Nature Gems are really easy to get, and it's really easy for you to cast Mother Oak. This spell here, especially with the God design I chose, where you take 5 Nature off the bat, you can cast Mother Oak immediately if you rush to Alteration 5, and you should be doing that. This will grant you a lot of Nature Gems per month, and you could be site searching as well. The Orphic Mystic should be, you should be recruiting Orphic Mystics to start site searching pretty early, as in like by turn 2. Just get these guys searching as much as possible to find as many death and nature sites as you can. And all of this together can really pump up your economy, not just your nature economy, but your death economy. Corpse Collector lets you trade equally gem for gem, so you could trade 3 nature gems for 3 death gems immediately. And since death gems are such a valuable gem, they're so useful, they have so many great summons in the death, there's so many great death summons. This is like an amazing death economy engine. You can really get a death economy going from a huge nature economy, and that's amazing. Like, this can open up a lot of strategy for you. So let's see what strategies you can actually play with once you get that death economy going, that death nature economy. One thing is playing with some of the Conjuration death summons. I think Conjuration is a more useful path for you as Pangea, sorry, not Pangea, as Arcoscephale than Enchantment is. So I'd rather go down Conjuration first, and then maybe dip into Enchantment later. So here's some of the Conjuration death summons that are pretty useful. The Bane is a good cheap thug. He's pretty cheap. He's strong. He's a Bane Blade. You can give him a little bit of gear, and you've got a light thug right there. Also, he's like a good army leader. He can lead some undead around. For example, the Whites. Whites are a really strong, powerful unit. And once you get to Conjuration 3 and get a good gem economy going, you should start trying to summon Whites to fill up your armies a little bit more with more elite units. A good group of Whites led by Bane and then accompanying your normal units can really improve your power a lot. Later in the game, you get the Wraith Lord, Call Wraith Lord by Conjuration 8, and this is a great Immortal unit. This helps you break into Immortals. I like the Wraith Lord much better than the Lich, for example, which is the other kind of Death Immortal. Again, he's Immortal, so when he dies, he will come back. He has a Fear Aura, he has a Cold Aura, and he can summon Ghosts if he wants to. Plus, he's a Mage. He has Death 3, which means I think he can do Soul Vortex, which is also quite good. And he has great armor just out of the box, but you can give him a little bit more gear if you want as well. So this is a great option for late game if you want to get into Immortals. Wraith Lord is a really great Immortal, and that can enable a lot of good strategies for you. Another thing is Tartarians. Now, Tartarians are, I think, a little bit worse in Dominion 6 than Dominion 5. And in Dominion 5, they're already bad compared to how they used to be. But Tartarians are still good. Even if they're bad, they're still good. So late game, you can get Tartarian Gate at Conjuration 9. Now, Tartarian Gate is really cheap. It used to be, I think, 10 gems. Now it's only 7. And you summon one of these Titans. Now, this is one Titan, for example, but you can summon a bunch of different Tartarians. Some of them are better than others. This is one of the better ones. He gets a ton of paths. However, when you summon them, they often have afflictions. They have many afflictions with them. They're often feeble-minded, means they can't do anything. Sometimes they're often a unit. If you get one as a unit, you can use Gift of Reason, which is really easy for you to cast. That can make them a commander. Again, sometimes they still have afflictions as a commander, or they're feeble-minded, so you have to deal with that. In the past, you could use Gift of Health to heal their feeble-mindedness and heal their afflictions, but I don't think that works anymore. So possibly the only option for you will be Mending Bones as a bless. So if you really want to get in Tartarians and the late game, you have to consider that when you're making your god, making your bless, and you have to take Mending Bones. I'm pretty sure this is the only way. If someone knows another way to heal Tartarians, you could tell me. Tell me in the chat, or sorry, not the chat. Yeah, tell me in the the chat box what you think, if you have any other ideas, but I'm pretty sure only Mending Bones can actually heal Tartarians as of Dominion 6. Another option is once you get the late Conjuration as well of Misery. This is to really boost your death economy even more. You already should have a good death economy just with the Panagia's conversion ratio. But this can really put you in overdrive and make you like a death superpower by the late game. And you'll be able to summon so many death mages that you can really compensate for the kind of weak death paths that your national mages have, which usually you don't get above death 2 on any of your national mages. All right, so that's a pretty good option. And even if you don't get Mending Bones, I will say a good number of the Tartarians will be just normal. Not that many of them, not the majority of them, but since this is such a cheap spell, you can just keep casting it. And the ratio is not like too bad. You'll get some that are like okay. So it could be useful, but I don't know if I'd really go for it. I don't know if I'd bother researching this if I don't have Mending Bones or some way to heal them. I think it's probably not worth it. All right, let's talk about raiding. Now, raiding is something that I've never really talked about much. I think I've talked about a little bit, but I think it's really useful to consider because this is a big strategy in the game, and I don't see many people cover it too much. So I think I'll talk about it a little bit. One of the best ways you can raid as Arcoscephale is, for one, just buffing your own troops. One Mystic with a couple of your cavalry or maybe just some hoplites. He can give them some good blesses. For example, give them a luck bless, give them body ethereal, iron skin quickness, battle fury. These are all pretty good and can help improve your troops. Other blesses too, like weapons of sharpness or some other kind of buffs. Anything that can be easily cast by one guy is usually the best. So these kind of buffs I put on the left here are all pretty good. For luck and body ethereal, these are kind of the main go-to ones. For luck, you do need the Orphic Mage, but choosing one or the other really comes to who you're going to fight. If you're going to be fighting units with magic weapons, go for luck. If you're fighting just generic units, go for body ethereal, and that's just how it is. Other thing you can do, elemental raids. 2 mystics together can be pretty good elemental raiders. They can summon a pretty decent amount of elementals. Just pick whichever elemental you think is the most useful to your situation and, take out some provinces. That could be pretty useful as well. Another way you could raid is with the Orphic Mystic. Now, I mentioned the Orphic Mystic could be useful for casting luck because he has glamour, but he can also be a good swarm or skeleton raider. He can easily get Nature 2 or Death 2. Now, these 2 spells are not as good as they used to be, but they're still pretty good, and I think you can still take out Province Defense with one of these guys alone and casting Swarm or Horde of Skeletons. Maybe you could double up. You can do 2 of these guys if you really want to guarantee you can take the province, but I think this is also a good raiding option as well. Just like 1 or 2 of these guys together can cast Swarm or Horde of Skeletons or both and just, take out a province. Next is dealing with elephants. Now, I mentioned elephants can be really useful. Elephants are tricky to deal with because they sometimes run back over your own lines. But I think if you get used to them and you can play around with them, they can be really powerful, even into the late game. If people are not expecting a bunch of ethereal, lucky, battle-hardened flying elephants, it can be really scary. So you can take a Mystic or an Orphic Mystic to cast some of these spells here. For example, Luck and Rage of the Cornered Rat can be cast by the Orphic Mystic. Body Ethereal Iron Warriors can be cast by the generic Mystic. All of these are really good. Body Ethereal makes them ethereal, and that's like really scary. Imagine like a ghost elephant coming to trample you. Iron Warriors to give them Iron Skin to make them a bit more durable. Luck to, again, make them harder to hit. This is more if you're fighting some units with magic weapons. And Rage of the Corner Rat is really great. It makes them berserk, so they won't run away. They'll just keep trampling and destroying the enemy. So that could be really powerful if you go into Thaumaturgy, which you really shouldn't, but maybe later in the game you can dip into Thaumaturgy a bit more. At least if you're going to go for Soul Slay, you'll probably have to pick this up anyways. Another item I wanted to mention quickly is the Gossamer Cloth. So this is kind of funny because it makes the army size report, it lowers it. So if you have a big group of elephants with some mystics leading them and a small army to kind of surprise your enemy, you can hide them with the Gossamer Cloth and they'll just come out of nowhere and your enemy won't expect them, so they won't like prepare for fighting elephants and they can really fuck them up. And I've tried this before as, not as this nation, but as a different nation. I've tried it before as, I think it was it Lanka or one of the monkey nations? I think it was actually Bandar Log. And I tried like a surprise elephant attack, and it was really, really funny to see a huge army get run over by elephants that they weren't expecting to be there. Now, last thing I want to talk about is blood. So with this god design, the Mother of Monsters, I did take a little bit of blood. That's specifically to enable a possibility of late game blood magic. So Curse of Blood is a late game blood spell. Once your research gets going, and Arcoscephale is amazing research. You can easily pump your way up to blood 8, and with your god, you can easily cast the spell. You can either, if you saw my blood video, you can either blood hunt with just scouts, or you can blood hunt with your god in the late game if you really want to, and get the gems required and create some vampires. Once you get one vampire, you can create more later. Just get these guys to blood hunt and then start creating a few more vampires. This gives you another option for immortals. Vampires are really amazing units. They got invulnerability, stealth. Again, they're immortal, and they can have reforming flesh, means they heal themselves as well. They got a lot of resists. So these guys are all really great immortal units as well, and they can help break you into blood. Another possibly cheaper way to break into blood is with your national summon Bind Keres. This summons a handful of these Care demon units. Now these are just units, but if you cast Gift of Reason on them, they do get some magic paths. They will get 1 death and 1 blood magic path. So if you're willing to sacrifice a lot of gems, you can get these pretty early. Conjuration 6, you can get these guys. And that could be a reason why you may not want to bother taking blood on your god. For example, if you take the Titan of Spring instead to get a bit cheaper god, don't even bother with blood at all. Just get Bind Keres. This is a death summon. Use Gift of Reason, which is a nature spell, which is really easy for you to cast. And then bam, you got some blood mages right there. You can break into blood really easily, and that's a really easy way to get into it. You can even buff these guys up to cast Curse of Blood later, and then still get vampires if you want. Let's take a look at some other national summons. These ones are less useful, but I still want to talk about them. Craft Celadon. This is a immobile unit, but it's a communion slave. So you can create a couple of these guys in some fort, for example, as a defensive communion battery. So you can keep like one mage, a couple mages there, and then these will be just like built-in communion slaves if they're ever attacked, for example. So this is more of a defensive unit, but it is situationally useful. I think it could be worth to construct if you really want to, but that's really up to you. Procession of the Underworld summons these Lampads. Now these have a Banefire Torch, which is pretty good because it has Banefire. It also allows the Stygian Paths. If you have these ones accompany your units using Stygian Paths, it'll stop them from being lost or being attacked by demons or whatever. So it allows them to use Stygian Paths more effectively. As well, if you use Gift of Reason on them, they will get these paths: Astral, Death, and Nature, which is kind of stuff you already have, but I mean, if you want that guaranteed Astral, Death, Nature, whatever, you can do that. A few other national summons: the Hound of Twilight, which has this Ghost Rending Bite. This one and the Cur both have this Ghost Rending attack. This is pretty good against undead units, specifically like ghosts. And for example, if Lemuria is in the game, this could be an option to help counter Lemuria. A handful of Care, as well as Hounds of Twilight, can help chew through their ghosts a little bit easier. This is not too bad. This guy's good as a patroller. I think if you want to get into blood and start blood hunting, you can get a couple of these guys as patrollers to help patrol down the province a little bit. Those have a fear aura, so you can keep these guys like a fear battery. Get a small group of these guys to run around and just like scare away certain units. You have the Brass Bull. Not much to say about him. He's a trampler and he's a heat aura. So if you want like a trampling unit, other than elephants, these guys are much better than elephants, to be honest. They have like amazing morale. So they're mindless, so they won't run away. I would say these guys are a bit better than elephants, especially since they're size 8, so they're still quite big. They will be able to trample almost everything. So this is kind of like a more mid to late game option to replace your elephants. If you don't want to bother with finagling them anymore, you can start getting Brass Bulls instead. Some other national spells I'll look at. Sow Dragon Teeth. This is a combat summon. Similar to like Horde of Skeletons, they'll summon a couple of these undead units, but these guys are much better than the normal ones. Are these undead? I think they're just like inanimate. Yeah, they're not undead, are they? So these are really good. They're spearmen, they're formation fighter, they have pretty great armor. They have a golden spear, which is a magic weapon, and this is really cheap, just 1 gem. Basically most of your mystics can cast this. So this is a good late game option for some more power in battles. A few other spells: from death comes life. This is a spell to increase the That's right, this is a spell to increase the growth scales in a province. If you want to boost the income of some provinces, you can use this. Monster Boar, I mentioned this in my Pangea video. This is a way to cause unrest in faraway provinces. And Curse Tablet is a remote curse ability if you want to curse somebody in another province. Alright, here is a test game I was playing as Arcoscephale. First of all, let's look at this battle. So this was a pretty small battle, but you can see how powerful these elephants are. I had a bunch of Peltas and they didn't do shit. And just a couple elephants, about 12 elephants, but they basically just trampled everybody. So let's take a look at this battle. I have 2 Mystics buffing the elephants. So here are the elephants. Let's see what the Mystics do. They're just going to do Body Ethereal. Oh, some of them went away. I should have told them to wait. Well, a couple of them get Ethereal. Each elephant is like 1 per square, so basically Body Ethereal only hits 1 elephant per time. Oh, they buffed themselves. Did they? That's not good. Okay, a couple of these guys got Ethereal. Maybe some of them got Cheetah Fate as well. Let's see how the battle goes. I already know how the battle goes. These elephants are just going to kill everybody. Oh, and they even kill some my own units, I think. Yeah, a big group of elephants ran off and ran through my own line, so that's probably where all my deaths came from. 13 Peltas, poor Peltas, got trampled to death by some elephants. Alright, so not much else in this game. I've had an okay expansion. I did have some trouble in the early game expanding. My research has been pretty good. Researching pretty quickly. My income is great. Very amazing income. But the main thing I want to do next is cast Mother Oak. So let's cast that and we'll take a look at how the Panagias Carcass Collector actually works. Alright, my god cast Mother Oak and there was a battle. Oh, another big elephant crush. Let's take a look at that. Right, there they go. These stupid elephants ran off too early. Alright, there they go, and they're going to crush my own guys. Hopefully not. Alright, the elephants deal with it. Elephants are so good. I love elephants, to be honest. Alright, so we cast Mother Oak. We're getting a lot of gems per turn, a lot of nature gems, about 12 per turn now. I'm getting a lot of Astral Pearls as well, about 8. And these are the rest of mine. I haven't found any death sites, which is too bad, but you know, I can do this. Let's do Alchemy. I'm going to do Carcass Collection, which is a special ability, and this can convert 3 gems to 3 gems exactly. So let's keep doing this. Now, the problem is I have to do that every turn, so I might have to get a couple of these guys to get a good kind of economy rolling, death economy rolling. So you might have to get a fairly decent number of these guys. It's not like Alchemy where you can just do as many as you want per turn. These guys can only do 3 per turn, so that's kind of unfortunate like that. But if you get a fairly decent number of these guys, you could have a really good death economy going based on your nature economy. Now, I wouldn't try to dump all your nature gems. I mean, you can do quite a lot, but I mean, you know, this is going to be 6 per turn, and I can have them do this like every turn if I really want to. So, I mean, that's not bad. If I get a couple of these guys, that'll be like maybe 12 per turn. 12 death gems per turn is quite a lot. So, you know, it's not too bad, especially with any death sites you find around the map. You know, that can really help out. I'm going to have these guys search around. Right, actually, wait, I'm going to have this guy create a building. Let's build a lab here very quickly. Someone else is building a palisades here. Is someone building palisades here? Oh, he's building palisades here. Uh-oh. I should go there then. Let's send these guys there quickly so I can build a lab. And then I'll see if I can pop these 2 throne provinces. Alright, let's see how that goes. I'm actually going to recruit a few more Panagias. Oh, I have a Sibyl coming next, so I don't want to dump her yet. Let's get this one to do something. Let's maybe get some gear. I need some more death income. I actually need some earth income. That's what I really need. I need to get some of these guys out searching for earth sites. Let's get one of these mystics out to look for earth sites here. Send this guy out somewhere to look around. Send you home. Alright, let's end the turn there. I need to start building some forts. I got a bunch of guys building forts around here. Okay, and you see I got some death gems. I got 6 death gems, but you know, that's not too bad. Let's get a few more Panagias to compensate here. Get this guy to research, get you to... What can this guy do? Can he do anything? Alright, we'll get these guys to search around a little bit more. I got to start searching for some earth sites. I really need to get some earth income coming in. Maybe some more water and fire. I'm pretty weak on my elemental income at the moment. So I definitely need to be searching more. What am I researching? Oops, I forgot to research. Let's research something. Maybe get up to a bit higher conjuration. Alright, there's a battle. Didn't go well. Battle in Imiglen. Yeah, lost. Too bad. Alright, so these guys moved in here. Let's move these guys out and deal with this army here. These guys are a big problem. And I'll bump this up here. I have so much gold. I've been kind of like lazy to spend gold this game, just like kind of a test game, so it doesn't really matter too much. Actually, I think what I may do is recruit some... Are there any guys? There's no like mercenaries around. Let's get this guy out of here to start searching for some stuff. Alright, not much else to do. That was pretty fail for this guy. Let's get these guys to keep doing carcass collection. All of these guys can do carcass collection. Let's get them in a group so they can do it a little bit easier. Alright, let's actually get an army out. I've been recruiting a bunch of guys for like ever, and I kind of forgot to actually send them out. Alright, let's just send these guys out. Maybe I can make this guy a prophet. He should be doing something. So we can bless my other dudes. Alright, so not too much. I'll also have this battle here, and I think I'll end the game. There's not much else I really want to show. I just want to show off the carcass collection, and also getting to Mother Oak, and maybe some other strategies of expansion, specifically with the elephants as well. Elephants have been pretty good. Once I got a decent mass of elephants and a couple mystics with body ethereal, they really were able to just crush everything. So that made expansion so much easier after that. Before that, I did have a little bit of trouble, but once I got elephants up and running, it was not too bad. So let's see this battle here. There's a pretty big group of these Van Hers. So we'll see how that works out. What I may do, actually, let's also get this guy to cast Call of the Wild again. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's end the turn here. Battle, yeah, killed everything. There's another battle. Oh, we beat them. So let's see how that goes. There's only a couple Van Hers here, so not too much, especially against elephants. Yeah, they can't do much about that. Look at that. Boom. Gone. Too bad. And there's a battle here. I got attacked by Abyssia. Uh-oh. That sucks. Where was that? They attacked... Where did they even come from? They come from underground, I guess? Damn, that sucks. Okay, so not much else here. Some elephants here. Big battle. Alright, a lot of junk around. Let's not worry too much about this. So you can see here, I've got decent gem income coming in. I do have to keep remembering to recruit more of these guys every single turn and get them all on carcass collection. Very easy like that, but just put them in a big group and I can start really pumping up my death income. I can even start doing some death summons. Let's see if I can do any death summons yet. Let's get some whites. Do I have enough for whites yet? No, I don't. Maybe I won't bother with that yet. Maybe next turn I'll have enough for whites. But either way, I'm going to end the video here. There's not much else for me to really say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys again next time. So, goodbye, guys.